Hey everyone, my name is Kabi and today I'm going to show you an interesting game between the light and the dark factions, as the blue light player in the bottom left appears Zwei and in the top right as the red dark appears Grom. I believe we've already witnessed the different games of those two, and probably even they faced each other in the battles on our channel previously, but anyways, both of the players are interesting to watch because they lean to their self-made strategists rather than just the meta strategists, because out there are always the two types of the players. Well, actually maybe more than two, but if we simplify this, then one type is the other players who just try to use the most efficient stuff over and over again, such as the Dominator, who's probably the top skilled player on the server right now, who is percepting the game in this perspective. And the other type of the players are those who prefer to do their thing, and that probably might not work as good, but at the same time it is very interesting and very engaging when you see your personal stuff working and something that came across your mind start working out. So this type are what this duo belongs to, so this is why they're usually interesting to watch, at least where things go their way. So in this game I believe it went their way, so let's see how it's gonna turn out. And in the early phase of the game, Zwei is gonna play 9 workers into the second tier and the 3 swordsmen follow-up mod and follow by, rather, right? I believe it's called follow by mode. Then when we produce one after one and do the things one after one, it's usually called in the tournament system when they say that the games are follow by mode, and that means that they don't play strict by the schedule. But anyway, Grom on his side, on his part, went the 2 workers second tier build, but then he added 2 more workers later on, and also adds the Totem of Orcs and the workshop. So he clearly gonna play Knots along with the Wolf Riders and probably with the Chieftain later. But if he's gonna add the Knots and the Wolf Riders early on, that probably means that he's not gonna get the Chieftain early. So we'll see how much resources he's gonna have to work with. But what is also interesting is that Grom used his first goon to obtain the control of the watchtowers, and that's what his early timing was used for. And I can tell that I personally always forgot about this undefended watchtowers, so this is probably the downside of my play style, or rather just being forgetful, because I just clearly forget to move my troops on those watchtowers, so I don't obtain the vision early on. And Grom maintained that, so it worked out well for him so far. I believe he didn't really scout, but probably he just knows what they plays normally. Or rather, it also happens sometimes in RTS that you play something that is not really volatile, or what we might call that. So you don't really care like what your opponent is doing, because your strategy is universal enough and you can face wherever he plays. So I'm not sure if this strategy is particular that, but probably, because Aeronauts and Wolf Riders can, I believe, take on any other opening in the game, on the first chests at least. But it is interesting that Grom is not really taking the first chest so far. It is almost 5th minute mark and he's only getting the mana well, and Zvey on his part, he saw that Grom's gonna take the mana well. He's not gonna let him, because he sends the 2 knights over to this position, so he protects this mana well from obtaining by the dark player. He denies this from him, so it is now an interesting move. So Zvey is gonna actually get this mana well, but the interesting part that probably Grom's gonna take this chest, because recently we buffed all the cavalry. They have the biggest sector and also the bigger attacking range, so they are using their cavalry strike better now, so they barely miss any hits. And if you micro, you can really do much more damage with the cavalry strikes comparing to what it used to be. But let's see the build orders there, because I'm not really getting this. It is a Factory 2 and the Rex 2 and the Dwarven Forge 2. So skipping any heroes, Zvey is gonna take up to the snipers and the guardsmen and probably the bikers as well. And I'm not sure if I really like it without the heroes, honestly, but probably Paladin or Princess, well, actually wherever hero would be looking good in this strategy too, but he's not very high on resources, so that's probably somewhat a calculated build. And it looks fancy, but it always looks scary to me when someone completely denies the heroes in the early stage, but we must admit that Grom is not playing any kind of the early heroes either, so it is only now that he's starting summoning his chieftain, and then he's probably gonna follow this with the alchemist, but it is still a couple of minutes to go, and by that time Zvey apparently gonna have enough of the bikers, and I'm not sure how many snipers he's gonna get, because snipers are not too mobile, but at the same time on this map, do you really need to be mobile? You probably want to protect your mana well, but if you make a rally point somewhere in this position, it is relatively close to fend it off, so probably you don't really have to rely too much on the mobility, apart from the fact that you of course wanna try to steal the enemy's mana well from time to time, but Zvey pretty much has these knights to probably seal the deal. But right now he's gonna do the elemental. He also added the healer to be able to regain the HP to the damage units. But what about the good part for the Grom is that he controls the watchtowers pretty much. What an interesting solo control by the chieftain. I'm not really getting, but it looks fancy just by itself. And Goblin Lab's been upgraded, I believe, if I read it correctly, because it is sometimes difficult to figure out if the building is being built or upgraded. I think that we're gonna discuss this internally and think how we can make this more transparent for the players, because even I sometimes don't get if it is being upgraded or built or whatever. So it is something we're gonna figure out and probably add some interface stuff to make it clearer, but I don't really a big fan of this fight for Grom. He's really down on supply right now, and he's even getting the gravity, so Zvey is gonna eat it for breakfast, because those aeronauts not gonna go anywhere from this position. Probably one gonna move out, but I mean move up but not out, because there were 4 bikers and they have a relatively high anti-air damage to the air. But the 10th minute mark coming up, this means that the 2 chests gonna pop up anytime soon, and if Zvey is not doing anything in this regard, he's gonna lose both of them, because Grom have the units, well, not on the perfect position. It is sometimes a bit complicated to remember where are the chests is gonna pop up. We still don't have the interface solution for this because it is somewhat a hard task. I really hope that we are gonna add it in the future. Well, I'm sure we're gonna add it in the future, but I really hope it's not gonna take a year to be done. But probably not in the near future, to be honest. But anyways, one knight goes down. Another knight's gonna go down too, but they decided to use a magic blast to finish off the Wolf Rider, who is pretty much an expensive unit, so you can really trade a 75 mana for him, especially if you have the 2 mana wells under control. And here starts the fight, but the big upper side for the dark player here, upper hand, is that he has one hero in the battlefield and another hero coming up, so the light player doesn't really want to fight this because those guys are too beefy. You can't really deal enough damage enough quickly, so wait would worth it. So I like the decision for Zvei to add the Bombardier, or whatever hero actually, probably he could even go more heroes, but first he has to add the 4th farm, and the same goes for Grom because he's not even maxed out on the main building tiers currently, so he delayed it for a long time. I don't really like it. I always like it in the White Unicorn games because he always upgrades his citadel or castle very quickly and very early on. Some other players sometimes forget this. But Zvei got his castle 4 earlier and even got his 4th farm, trying to steal this mana well again, using the meteorite to deal the damage to this tower. I'm not sure why he didn't position it precisely on the tower, but it went down anyway. Probably those bikers are not gonna retreat though. So not really a good trade because he didn't really steal the mana well. But well, one biker makes it out of there, so along with the tower that's probably an okay trade. So he keeps moving. Actually, I don't think that he rallied his units in this position. That's probably just a pot fighting stuff. Sometimes we have a complicated map configurations, so units are not finding their way throughout the maps easily. So our early map were very simple. So the units were moving very smoothly around, but honestly it was way too boring. So we thought that players could probably figure it out manually. And instead of making the good working, stupidly and simply looking maps, we are gonna make the good looking maps with interesting relief, but probably sometimes you get to help your units to move around. Alright, here starts the fight. Bombardier is gonna make an artillery strike on the Chieftain. Chieftain also performed the circle strike for the 3 guardsmen, and all of those went down. Zvei doesn't really want to fight on the low ground, so he retreats to the high ground instead. And he also got the 2 ballistas, so that means that he tacked up to the 2nd tier at the monument. So he's got a couple of ballistas to be able to do the area damage. And at the same time, once again he's trying to steal this mana well, but it's not gonna work again because of the Napalm Tower and the 2 goons as well. And also that biker, it seems that he's stolen the watchtower, but Grom's not gonna let Zvei to obtain it, to have it for a long time. So Zvei is looking if he can actually force a fight here. So he engages using the meteorite. There ain't many units, so only one makes masters go down, and look what Zvei does. He uses the alchemist paddle along with the sharp turns, and thus the 3 healers go down. But actually probably you're okay if your enemy use that much of their resources on the 3 healers. In the ideal world probably you want to even split those units, but that is sometimes too complicated, so you're just being like, well, at least he didn't use it on my battle units. But honestly, this fight went for Grom, so Zvei is trying to retreat to this position where with the 3 different towers he is defending the mana well instead of his own base, for example. But Grom is not going so far to attack the main base, to assault the main base. So now he backs off to probably reposition. His heroes are low, so probably gonna use the puddle. And at the same time he tacked up to the dark gate, as we already noticed, by having the necromancers in the fight. But now we can also see the under obelisk on the second tier of dark gate, so here comes the zombies. And those can turn a couple of guys into the zombies too. Zombies are somewhat the meta units now. I made a videos where zombie were claimed the best tank. In the comments I were told that I'm so stupid and the zombies are not tank. But actually the zombies are perfectly good in the current meta, so it's settled with a lot of zombies on board, but we're probably gonna nerf them. And nerf HP that the new zombies gain in particular. The interesting reaction by Grom. Previously the players would use the defense scroll, the protection scroll, to prevent the damage from the meteorite, but now the dark faction does not have that scroll anymore, so instead they use a regeneration, and that also somewhat works because it just starts to replenish the HP. But honestly, if you're not going to engage, I'm not sure if you even want to spend your mana on the meteorite. But if we look on the Zvei's mana, probably we can assume that he made a right call, because he already has enough for the next fight. I'm not sure why he didn't use a, whatever we call it, the snowstorm once. I'm probably gonna use it later. But so far Zvei relies mostly on the cheaper scrolls, but he's using it a couple of times in the fight. Instead of use one very powerful scroll, but it will be just one scroll, such as the snowstorm or the rockfall for the dark. The most players prefer to use one powerful scroll instead of a few mid-tier scrolls, but that is probably up to the particular player's playstyle. But the interesting part to note is that both players tacked up to the 3 heroes right now. Zvei is using the fortification scroll to buy more time for his army to make its way to this position, to be able to fight this and probably get his mana well back. Right now he's pretty much maxed out on mana. And what scroll he's gonna use? Grom on his side's gonna use the Gloom, and that is a bit of a discussable scroll, because snipers still could shoot the chieftain. So they did, and the chieftain went down, but of course they're also low on the resistances, while in the gloom, so the zombies were able to finish off a couple of snipers and the others also went down under the Rocketeer's fire. But all in all, I didn't really like that gloom too much. It was okay in this position, and I can probably say that Grom used the gloom as this scroll is supposed to be used, but it is, I guess, not good enough right now, so we are gonna buff it in the next balance patch. We are gonna make it cut in the attack range more than it does now. So we'll see how it's gonna work, but in this fight it wasn't really a great scroll to apply probably, and that is why the light player is still on the 3 heroes alive, and the dark player is on 2 heroes alive, and one of them is gonna go down any second now. The princess just needs one more little crit, but the Baron, the Bombardier Baron, did it in the end, and Zvey decided to force his skeletons and takes down the sniper. What a nice call. So he noticed that the sniper were very low and used the 3 units to trade for the quite an expensive unit, so that is always a good call to make. And now Grom used his zombie to avoid the princess attacks because of running around the princess, because princess can only shoot in the sector. So ideally you can run around the princess forever and she will never be able to shoot. So that was what Grom did with his zombie, to let the other units and the chieftain come up and take the chest. And in the right part of the map, X-Masters took the chest too, so Grom is pretty much up on resources, higher on resources, and he also got the citadel. I didn't even really notice when exactly, but now we can see that the second base is up. Bombardier using his ability. Paladin for some reason used his ability too. And Grom decided to turn around and start the fight. I'm not sure if starting the fight into the dome is such a good idea, but the dome went down relatively quickly. Rockfall wasn't too lucky, I believe, because he didn't hit too much targets. Here come the puddle into the snipers. One sniper goes down, another probably gonna follow him. And all the dark heroes are alive, and that in the end wasn't a good fight for Zvey, but he's trying to at least save something. He's famous for saving units and especially saving the heroes to be able to reuse them fight after the fight instead of resummoning. But in this particular case he still left to resummon, and he's already getting the princess back. And at the same time Grom lazily getting the gold from the gold mine with just 1 slave, and at the same time he's on 11 workers in total, while Zvey is on 12 on his only base, but 1 is also in the proxy position to be able to repair the towers and also to maintain the control of the mana well. So the game slows down for a bit because everyone building stuff. We can see Grom taking up to the Venom Spitas and also adding the Dark Gate and even the other Dark Gate. So in total, out of the 2 bases, he's by the way adding even more workers, he's gonna get the 2 Dark Gates, the 3 Dark Gates and the 2 racks and the altar and the workshop, which doesn't build anything though, but it is still the building, so that is somewhat a good production and a formidable production comparing to just the 2 racks and 1 factory and 1 sanctuary and 1 hero altar. So Light's production is way slower than the Dark's player, but does the Dark player has a better engagement ability? I'm not sure. Let's see. Here starts the fight. They decided to use the protection scroll now, but the ballista goes down very quickly. The other one though attacks and hits pretty much all the X-Masters, and so does the princess, and so did the bombardier. So a lot of damage along with those warsmith coming from the light player. So that wasn't a bad fight. I didn't really like how they initiated it, but eventually it seems that he traded good. But now he's still gonna back off for a bit, because this eater is way too high on HP, and this eater also already has the ability ready, so I wonder why he didn't try to take down the princess. Probably Grom just wasn't watching, wasn't paying attention to that. But now with the Rocketeers, it is even the better chance, but now Zwei, I believe, is paying attention to this, so he's never gonna let his princess to come under the stun. But Grom still's gonna try, now he's using the ability, but princess backs off that very moment. And Grom just decided to pull his eater back, which seems to be the right call, because he's already on 1/3 HP. And if you give him a couple of free minutes, he's gonna restore that, because any undead unit and a hero is gonna restore their full HP in precisely 4 minutes. So you can remember this simple math. So 4 minutes. So if he has 25% HP, it is 3 minutes for him to restore it to the full HP. Probably you're not gonna wait 3 minutes, but in 1 minute with a half it will be already much more beefy than it's now. Zwei is gonna force yet another fight in this position. I don't really like how he always put his ballistas together, honestly, because it creates opportunities like this, when the eater can just take down the 2 ballistas at the same time, then eater comes into the snipers but throw them away, and that's probably not the worst thing that might happen to the snipers, because they just keep attacking the eater and eater's gonna go down. Zwei is trying to maintain that with his princess, but he has to be careful, because those units, the 3 Venom Spitters and the 3 X-Masters and also the Alchemist, are very dangerous, and they can take down the princess like in one shot. But here comes yet another perfect gravity, and I must note it how Zwei is using the gravity in a very good fashion in this battle throughout the game, because we used to see a lot of really bad gravities in the past. Well, in the past few months, I must say, because prior to that gravity was way stronger. So it lasted longer, I believe, and also bigger radius, and also bigger debuff to the resistances. So the gravity was strong, and almost every time it made the difference. But then we nerfed that for the different reasons, but also because the dark faction doesn't have it anymore, so it can't be the ultimate scroll anymore. So now it's weaker, and now you really have to think if the gravity is worth it to use or not, because in many situations you can't really make anything out of this, because you just like immobilize the targets for a bit, but you can't even make it there with the other units, but it already passed, and so the Venom Spitters fly away. But Zwei has been really successful with his gravities during this battle, and here come another perfect usage of that scroll. Immediately the artillery strike goes down and all the Venom Spitters killed. What a perfect gravity, I must say, and it is An interesting thing to note too, that Zwei is not even... he doesn't even have a human tower to defend from the Venom Spitters, but still doing fine in this regard. But at the same time, Grom is trying to force and take on those towers to be able to recapture the mana wells. But Zwei is already there, already in the position to fight this. Here come the Rockfall, not really killing many targets apart from this healer, but many targets are very exposed in HP too. But so are the Dark units, I'd say. Those couple of X-Masters are still high HP, but not anymore after another artillery strike, and even the Eater under the attack of the 3 snipers whom they put under the protection of this Tower of Light Magic. They dealt an extreme damage to the Eater, and this hero probably not gonna make it from this fight. So Grom probably made a wrong call trying to steal that mana well, but it is an interesting way to hold the mana well, I'd say, and I think it really works, because if not that, they would lose that mana well a long time ago, and he'd be having way more rock falls on his head, and the battle could be already finished. But well, Grom keep mining his base. It is over 30 minutes now, so the base is gonna add in like 4 or 5 minutes probably, slightly depending on the citadel and the towers level, as well as how many economical scroll did the players use. Yet another gravity, and all the Venom Spitters been caught once again. One of them probably be able to fly away, but on a very low HP. And now the chest is going to the Zwei's name. I'd also suggest to steal back the watchtower and probably then check if there is the base. I'm not sure if Zwei even knows already that there is the base, and that is of course not the strongest game read, because you have to be aware of the things like this, because it changes the macro game entirely. But well, Zwei is trying to play as it is, and now the perfect rockfall killed all the healers in no time. Venom Spitters go down, but here come a lot of the zombies, and the zombies is what Grom preferred to build. Now he's almost maxed out, but gonna add a couple of units soon, and trying to pursue this army to probably feed his zombies even more. And here he get more X-Masters, more Necromancers, using the Sharp Thorns to be able to catch this princess, but she's way too fast, even under the slowing debuff. But what about Baron? He's not, so probably he's not going to escape this. I don't really like it how Zwei is not fighting it, but almost all of his things are very low, so we must admit it. So he would feed zombies probably with his units, so he decided to lose the Bombardier to resummon it with the Resurrection Scroll. The interesting part of the scroll that you are probably not aware of, I'm not sure if you even tried once, but that the hero restores with the ability ready, and that is a very important part, and that is gonna be even more important when we are gonna introduce the second tier of heroes, because the tier 2 heroes are of course gonna be extremely powerful with their abilities mostly, and their possibility to use their ability once more in the same fight is probably be very good thing to have. But we'll see when we introduce them to the game. Currently they are not really ready in numbers, so they are not really well balanced. Alright, Zvei is gonna be mined out soon because Grom is already mined out. Zvei is still mining a little bit from his main base. Grom is still mining from his second base, but his main base is entirely exposed. But he also got more chests in this game. And here come the fight in the middle of the map. Zvei got a lot of the Warsmith to counter the zombies, but he's been very cautious and very careful with them to not force them into the puddle and into the chieftain ability, so he tries to wait until those heroes will use their ability, but they're still not using it, so he decided to use the protection scroll, but here comes the puddle and here comes the Eater ability and the chieftain ability, so anyway, puddle always went down, so Zvei is sending his troops into the fight. Eater is still on the ability, so he throws away a couple of the dwarfs, but a lot of the Warsmith survives this fight, and it is an interesting part. So actually, in the meantime, the ballistas and the princess, and I believe this guy pretty much killed everything, right? Well, here come an interesting event. It seems that zombies killed pretty much everyone. There are 3 workers on the map for Zvei right now. He's also mined out, so it is not like very important, but he's trying to get the second mine, and he will need his workers, obviously, but look what Grom did. He destroyed the farms. And that is now a very interesting part, because if Zvei is gonna be low on the workers, he might be in a situation when he's not even able to build the farms. But he still has the 2 workers, and one of them is right here, and the other is building the mana tower, but it seems that he forced those lizards to fight him. Well, actually, I believe that 1 unit attacked them, but if they would try to steal the gold while lizards are still alive, they would do the same thing, they would just attack. But that means that there are 0 workers, and there are also a supply block. So, even though Zvei still has a bit of gold, he can't replenish his workers, and he can't hire any units now. So he will have to fight with what he has now. And Grom is mined out, but he has 10k bank in gold and 6k in wood, which is pretty much enough, I'd say. So he can replenish all of his army like 2 times, and that means pretty much the game to me. But Zvei still has a good defending position and even the castle, but it doesn't mean anything right now. He still decided to take down the lizards. And in the meantime, Grom decided to farm on the lizards, to kill them with the zombies, to get more zombies for free, and he is gonna be oversupplied because of that. And that is of course the very interesting part of the zombie strategy, and a lot of our strong players use it to farm on the reds. So they attack the camps defended by the reds, so there are 6 reds, so they got 6 free zombies. They get 6 free zombies, get oversupplied, and then attack. This strategy was used in the community tournament and also being widely used among the top players right now. So this is one of the reasons why we are gonna nerf zombies. We could of course deny them from farming on the natural creeps, but that is like the natural part of such thing as a zombie, so we not really want to make unit not working. We rather just make it working but better balance. So that is the approach we are using. It seems that Zvei finally figured out that there are the base, but now he sees that Grom already mined it out. So he decides, he figures out how behind he is and how behind he was during all this battle, and probably he just realizes that, well, this is why I am losing, because I was wondering, is light not playable? Is dark so imba? But in the end you just find out that there were a base mining all the time. So you just wasn't able to notice it earlier and use some Fox Rider or wherever you might use to take this initiative down. But now Zvei is going to fight in his last position to have this last stand with a human tower missing sometimes, but still dealing a lot of damage to the Venom Spitters. Another quite a good gravity. All the Venom Spitter go down very quickly, but no mana tower. That means that the rockfall is possible. Rockfall yet again doesn't really do a lot of damage to the units, so fight goes on. Zombie kill a couple of guys, getting one free zombie from the Warsmith. Dark player going further, killing the Tower of the Lightman. Oh, not really. The Rocketeers trying to attack the healers, and probably that wasn't really a good call, because the buff towers keep attacking, and so is Bombardier, so all the Rocketeers go down, and they even moved out his healers to make them surviving. So they survive this fight, and the last hope for Zvei is to take down this base and probably somehow to force this game to a draw. I'm not sure that in any situation he could win it, really, because he would have to move way too far from his towers, but probably he can force it to the draw. I'm not really sure. Zvei doesn't really have a lot right here, but we see him always almost maxed out because he ordered like a lot of stuff once again. And a lot of Venom Spitters attacking this Bombardier, and the healers can't save him because the Venom Spitters denies the heal. So they're finishing off the ballistas. Now come the gravity, but there are no units to finish those down. They also can't turn around to attack the Warsmith and the Guardsman, but that's not important anymore. All the units of Zvei go down. That means that Grom has this, and he really did a good job in this game, I think. He attacked up to the great technology. He added a lot of production buildings. He added the second base. He was up on mining and controlling the map and taking the chests. And even though Zvei was trading very successful in some fights, this is still the RTS, so the production usually wins. So Grom wins this, and probably can suggest this something to Zvey. I'm not sure, probably he's gonna be happy with that, and mind that he also has his own YouTube channel, and even though he commentates this in Russian, you probably can use the subtitles to watch if you want. But now we're gonna wrap it up, so thank you guys for watching, subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss the further videos, and I see you there. Bye bye.